on our session here. Today we're going to be talking about the upgrading Winshuttle Foundation and kind of a overview of that. So, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask them anytime, and I will try to answer them as they come in. My name is Scott Swan. Again, lots of info down there, but one thing that I do also is I do most of the upgrades and installs for all of our clients. So for the past 3 years, so I have extensive experience at the installation process and upgrade process. So that is me. And again, here our high-level overview of what the Winshuttle Foundation upgrade might look like. I also want to note it's always recommended to kind of keep your Winshuttle Foundation environment updated for support purposes and fixes and things like that. So you don't want to be too far behind. To note, I want to make sure everybody understands the installation and upgrade process is quite complex. So each install is unique based on your environment. So this presentation will not detail all those variations and tasks associated with that. I call that kind of getting into the weeds really deep there, so we won't be doing that. Each client also, their infrastructure can impact how the upgrade process even works and goes. So there's a big difference there per company there. And of course, if you have any questions about upgrading, feel free to contact Clear Process Solutions too. So we have extensive experience again in upgrading Winshuttle Foundation, and we can certainly help you with a plan or anything like that that you would like. So, all right. So, first thing that we always ask is, there's two options for upgrading. The first option, of course, you can upgrade your current environments. Dev, QA, Prod. You may not have all three of these, and you may even have a fourth. I'm not sure. So, but upgrading your current environments to the latest Foundation product. What you can do, and also you can build out new environments that would be the new dev, QA, and prod, and install the product right there too. So there are some advantages to both, and there's some disadvantages to both. Depending upon other things in your environment, one of these may be a better choice. So that can help you decide, and we'll go on to the next slide here too. This is a lot of the initial information that you would want to have or to know before you kind of make these decisions, right? So what version of the product are you currently on? A big question to ask because it can really impact the upgrade process based on how far back your version is. So that's a very important piece of the information. What version of the Winshuttle Foundation product you want to go to? So, some clients don't like to go to the latest and greatest, as they call it sometimes, on the bleeding edge. You'd rather be a build or two behind. So that's okay too. So, making that decision ahead of time and knowing that can help decide on which way we go here too. And whatever version we're going to upgrade to, we certainly want to go to the Winshuttle support site and look up the hardware and software requirements for that version, because the version you're on, those software requirements may have been different. And so your environment may be different than it can be for the new version. And that, of course, would then help you decide on if you're going to build new environments or not. If you had an environment issue that was not supported, then you would have to go ahead and create or build new servers and stuff for that. So that can be a big decision point there, is where do you want to go and what's the requirements there. So what does an upgrade look like? It can be quite complex, or it can be much easier, just based on what version. So the upgrade, again, as I wrote here, directly related, the impact there is directly related to your current version of the Foundation product. So I have a few examples here. If you're on a version before the 10.9.1 hotfix 1, then the upgrade process becomes a 3-step upgrade process. And when I say 3 steps, that means that there's going to be 3 separate install tasks. So every product will need to be upgraded to the 10.9.1 hotfix 1 first. Right, that's step 1. So you got to install every product's upgrade and all the different products in the Foundation suite and platform. And then you have to upgrade again to actually move it to a version 11 interim build. So that's step 2. And so you have to upgrade every product there also. And then on the 3rd step is then you want to upgrade and install every product to the version that you're trying to get to, whether it's the newest or 1 or 2 steps behind that. So that's how large of a difference there. So 3 steps there if you're that old of the current product. If you're already on 10.9.1 hotfix 1, of course, then it's just 2 steps. So you have to do the version 11 interim and fully upgrade the product there. And then we would have to do the next version that you're trying to get to there. So that's the 2-step. And then, of course, if you're already on 11 dot something X here, it's just a 1-step process there. So you're just doing an upgrade. So you upgrade every product. So that's the difference between the different versions and what impact that makes. And you can imagine each one of these steps is a consumer of time, so it just increases the time if you're on an older. That's why I think in a slide or 2 before, Winshuttle always recommends to try to stay fairly current on your product suite. So, alrighty. Also, for the ones that are still on Winshuttle Designer and Microsoft InfoPath, one of the things to know here is you have to convert all your solutions to Winshuttle Composer, which is the new design tool. The reason for that is the Winshuttle Designer and InfoPath is no longer supported in version 11 and higher. So that is a part of the product that has been deprecated and is no longer supported. So I kind of noted here, we've done a lot of this, by the way, with clients, and we have good knowledge and extensive knowledge in converting designer solutions to Composer. The designer workflows can be imported into Composer, but the layout and form have to be totally recreated in Composer. So that is where a lot of time would be invested is just redesigning your forms and all that. So, and along with that, maybe some rules would not transfer over either too. So that's what the impact is on the upgrade if you have designer and InfoPath forms and solutions. So. We always start upgrades in the development environment first and not production, obviously for many reasons. You want to test all this first before you want to go live. So development is installed and fully tested on all solutions and scripts in that development environment before you move to the next environment and when we upgrade the next environment. This is just the best scenario for making sure everything is fully tested and any issues are worked out along the way so that production is not impacted along the way there. So CPS experience, we have lots of experience. We have done numerous upgrades and installs across the 3 years. And what we know for sure is the largest effort of an upgrade is the testing and refactoring of the workflow solutions. That'll be the biggest impact. The older the version, as I noted here, the larger that effort is, because as you come from the 10.9 world, the version 11 and version 12 engine has changed, and so rules and things tend to be a lot different. So that's a big impact on the effort there for that. So that's always our largest effort. No matter how many times we do an upgrade, that's the effort that takes the longest. So that's just a good way to know to plan there. If you're coming from version 11 already, then this effort is obviously much smaller. The closer build you have to the newest already, then that effort is going to be smaller. And it's going to be much bigger as you go from an older product. So, Excellent. So we talked about an upgrade, and we said, we can upgrade the current environments, and this is also what does a new installation look like here. So now we're talking about, instead of upgrading the current environment, we're going to build 3 new environments or 2 new environments, however your environments are, and we're just going to install the product, the newest or the latest that you want to go to right off the bat, right? And of course, as I noted here, I think I mentioned before, if your environment, your current environment does not meet the requirements for the new product, then we can't upgrade anyway. We would have to change environments and create new environments for that, or upgrade literally the environment itself, which a lot of times can't be done. Usually, it's much easier to build a new server than to somehow attempt to upgrade a Windows OS operating system there. So. And depending upon your version of the platform, it may be easier just to start off with new environments. As I said, we've done quite a few of these, and we've done quite a few of the new installations as decision points. When you're coming from the 10.9 platform, there's a lot of requirement changes. There's also, hardware changes, memory requirements are a little bit higher, and also current products that are on the designer platform that they really just want to start a new environment, and so that actually can help make the decision for the client. There is how far back you're coming from there. One of the advantages of building a new set of Winshuttle environments is that there's no impact on the current environment, right? So in your production, QA, or dev, your current solutions, your current efforts, and your current production is moving along just fine, and you're not impacting them at all because you're starting up with a fresh set of environments, and you can build all of the environments too, fully build out everything from dev, QA, all the way up to production without any impact or downtime to the current system. So that's actually a great advantage for a lot of clients if they can do that. So that works out really well. And of course, another advantage, if you're doing a 3 and 2 step process, as I described earlier, for installations, then getting rid of those 3 steps or 2 steps and just making it a 1 step, just install it once, is also a great advantage. You don't have to spend as much effort installing the upgrades and doing all the preparation for the upgrade from 1 step to the next step along the way. So that is another advantage for starting fresh with a new environment. And there's also a slight difference in testing too. I did say in the previous slide that the biggest effort is the testing, and it still is in the new. But one thing that you do not have to worry about testing is current running processes. So processes, a lot of clients, in fact, Winshuttle will recommend too that you, before you do any upgrade, is to complete all your processes. Well, in many clients, that can happen, and they don't have long running processes, and they can close them all out and complete them and all that. But other clients can't. And so they have 2-year running process. They have long running processes at times. And so these things cannot be closed out before the upgrade. So the one thing that you have to do when you do an upgrade is you have to plan for that type of testing. Is I need running processes and how are they impacted if I do an upgrade along the way. And with a new installation, you don't have to worry about that because there is no running processes because this is an all new environment. So we'll start fresh when we go live in production. So that can actually lower the effort sometimes there. And then sometimes the running processes really cannot be moved forward after an upgrade. We have seen on occasion where these running processes get stuck. And so, testing those in dev is an important thing too beforehand if you're doing that. And the rest of the testing is pretty much similar to an upgrade. Again, largest portion of time and effort spent is right there along the way. So. All righty, and feel free to ask any questions anytime during this session. I'll be glad to answer whatever I can. All righty, things to remember here. This is just going through and planning and trying to determine what we want to do. Solution testing is the biggest effort. I think I've stated that a lot, and it really is important. all of us CPS people can attest to that we do a lot of testing with clients during upgrades. It's important to have a test plan and your team available too. So that's one thing to plan for during, if you're going to be doing an installation or an upgrade, is will my team be available during these times that can test these processes?
Hey, Scott.
Yes.
Hey, this is Jody.
Yes.
Hey, we do have one question that came in.
Okay.
I will read to you. How do you handle the existing environments archive documents?
Great question. I love that question. I am an archive person, so I know a lot about archiving. So how do you handle the existing environments archive? So yes, one big way we can do that is once everything is completed, and actually we have a client in this scenario we're going on right now. So what you can do with the new environments, once you get them up and running, is after you go live with the new environments, the current production, we're just going to say all the processes have been completed, right? And everybody is now, nobody is actually doing anything on that environment anymore. We can actually perform a Winshuttle archive, first of all. So we would schedule that for all your processes. And then that would actually, archive to an archive site on SharePoint. And then we can export that archive site from SharePoint and import it into your new environment in SharePoint. And so we would just import that site somewhere in your environment so that others can actually go and now look at these archived processes. And then they can see the history and everything about them in there. So that is our best plan. You could leave the other environment up too after it's been archived forever. Most IT groups don't like to leave unused servers laying around, so that's not normally a scenario, but you could do that too. But the first scenario I described is the best way to do that. Hope that answers your question. If not, feel free to add more to that. All right. I did put a nice little bold italics here. Winshuttle recommends that all current running processes should be completed before an upgrade occurs. The reason why I know that is in the installer, it actually tells you that. So they actually tell you that right as you start to do an upgrade. You want to close and complete all processes first. Now, that's not always possible. And we see probably the majority of our clients cannot accomplish that for different reasons. Again, long-running processes and stuff like that tend to go on for a good while. So what you would do there is if you're upgrading processes, for an upgrade, then you would have to test all this. And so I think I may mention that down here. If you're doing a new installation, you would just leave the old environment up until you can complete those. And then once you complete them, you would archive them and then move them over to the new SharePoint environment. Yeah, and so I noted here, this is a big scenario to remember, and we have to put this as part of our plan too as we do an upgrade. If you're doing an upgrade and you're going to have running processes, we need to remember to have some of those available in test so that you can test those scenarios in the development environment. So you'd want to have these running in development, some running process, all your different processes. You need to have a few of them, if not 5 or 6 that are running, so that you can actually confirm that the upgrade does not affect those at all, and you can still move those through the process. What we do see from the older versions to the newer versions is you'll see some of those have difficult trouble based upon different things like even field length is one thing that changes all of a sudden, but there's a lot of rules and everything else that stop the form from working. So sometimes you resolve those and sometimes you can't. And so you'd want to know that in dev very early in the process so that you can actually plan accordingly as what you're going to do in prod. So. All right.
Great. Sorry to interrupt you again,
No,
but we
that's
have
great.
another question. This is great. Let's see. How do you handle authorizations that have been set up in the existing environment before the upgrade? will the authorizations need to be re-entered?
Another very good question. Will the authorizations need to be re-entered? Okay, so I assume authorizations are probably the roles. That's part of the workflow and who's in charge. So those should carry on just fine. Those during an upgrade would not be changed normally. The only thing that would impact the roles and stuff is if the form has some errors on it after the upgrade and you can't get it to the next step. But the authorizations themselves would still be intact. So, the manager, the VP, the finance approver, all these different approvers that you might have should be the same. And security will stay the same on an upgrade, so you wouldn't have to do that. Only in the new environment would you have to rebuild your security. And then also in the new environment, you would rebuild your roles. But that should be expected since it's a clean environment and not been touched before. But for an upgrade, that should follow through just fine there. Hopefully that answers that. All right. So these are the things to remember. Let's see here. What do we got next? Well, we're just about there. Any more questions along the way? And upgrades are times can be complicated, to say the least. So good planning always helps us out. A good planning always gets through some of these difficult times along the way. So that's okay. I think let's see here today. Did we get another question? I think we're good. Yeah.
No,
okay.
I think we're okay.
Well, we'll go back to questions if need be. I'm going to bring up a couple other slides here. I think we've got exciting things planned for 2019, right? I think all of our events have been handled through the end of the year because of all the holidays coming up. And just to let you know about Solution Care, again, I happen to be Solution Care Manager, so any of these things are available for your assistance if you have Solution Care along the way. So all this stuff is on the table, and I'm not even sure. I think we even have more stuff now, possibly listed. But so we can handle any of your needs, most likely, along the way. And I don't see any other questions on upgrades, so I think we are good. This one was a little quicker. Sorry, there's not really an easy way to do demos for installs because installs take longer than a demo. So, and that is it. So hopefully everyone has a wonderful rest of the week and a holiday, I think, coming up next week too. So we will.
You know what, Scott?
Yes.
We do have one more question.
Yeah,
it just
very
came
good.
through.
Excellent.
Will CPS be reaching out to its customers for upgrades, or do the customers need to reach out to us? How does that work?
Yeah, good question again. And I will talk from my knowledge. So, I am not the smartest person on this possibly. I know I talk to clients as we interact a lot of times about upgrading. If your product is older than a year, I would say that you should be thinking about an upgrade because there's been many builds. I think Winshuttle is on a cadence of 4 builds, good builds per year. So if you're over a year, you're more than 4 out at least. So I would recommend you thinking about that. And CPS, of course, will continue to interact with our clients and mention that along the way. And if you would like to ask us for advice on that too, feel free to do that. I think I answered that hopefully well.
And a little follow-up to that. They're using Foundation 11 point X.
Yep. So if you're using Foundation, if you're on like 11.2 or 11.21, then you're probably about a year out at least, if not a little over a year. So that's that's a good one to be thinking about there, because there have been lots of bug fixes, lots of improvements in the newer product. Version 12 is actually out now too. So version 12 has been out for a couple of months now, I think. And so it's a good thought to certainly be thinking about that if you're on 11.x, especially 11.2 or 11.2.1, to be thinking about that. 11.2.5 and 11.2.12 are the last two builds. There may be an 11.2.14 just for some patches and stuff, but those are the last two builds that I know of that are the most recent along the way. So if you're older than 11.2.5, I would be thinking about a possible upgrade in a next 6 months or so, because it would be good to stay fairly up to speed on this as these things come about. And again, 11.2, 11.2.1 there's a lot of fixes that have been put into the 11.2.5 and newer product on that too. So even some performance enhancements too. So very good questions. Excellent. All righty. Well, thank you very much, and you have a great day.